The California Teachers Association, CTA, and the Institute for Teaching, IFT, present IFT Expo 2015, a series of presentations by IFT grant recipients.
Hi, my name is Kory Bootsma. I am a history and a science teacher at Rancho Verde High School in Moreno Valley, California. I am a two-time grant recipient. I got it the first year to include aquaponics, and in the second year we expanded upon the aquaponics program and introduced something called hydroponics. I am the agricultural science teacher at my school, and it was a program that we just started there. And so this was a brand new program that really needed a lot of assistance in order to get the kids to start learning science by doing. And so the intentions behind the grant was this is all project-based learning. It's all hands-on. There's no simulations. There's not so much paper to pencil. It's actually, here's the principles behind something. Now let me see you do it. And so it was very different than the kids were used to. I targeted what I call the regular students. I taught AP at one point, and those kids were super high. They could excel. Our EL learners had their own program. Our special ed kids had their program of support. Our AVID kids had their program of support. And we said, well, what about the regular students, the students who may go to a junior college after high school, but may need to just enter straight into the workforce. And so this became a part of career technical education, to where they were learning science, but they're also learning the industry behind the science. And so it's very kind of Common Core oriented, because they're taking multiple different perspectives of things and putting them all together. And it was very important that this was a program. It wasn't just a class. And so it was something that was going to be carried on for many, many years. So it wasn't something like the grant would be 1 year and then done. It was going to continue on. One of the things I think that we were successful in this class was we definitely had a targeted audience. We were supported by our administration, obviously within reason. They gave us some money to start the program, but in order to increase the level of intensity of the program, that's when we sought out grant support. We did have support from some of the local businesses around the area. They would donate some of the consumables and some of the supplies to the program. And we did have a lot of community involvement. We would go out and we would do demonstrations on what these systems do. We were at the Southern California Fair demonstrating to the public what these systems do. So there was a lot of the community ties within this, in this program. And so it was just very kind of different from what we were used to. And it will be self-sustainable, because as we start to grow vegetables through these systems and we sell them, that money gets generated back into the program. That allows us to buy more seeds and more medium to grow our plants in. And so you can see this is kind of how we started. Year one, I had no space. I went out to the very back of the school, and we threw in some raised garden beds just there on top of the concrete, and this is where we started. And so students were learning the principles of growing plants out there, and they had the greenhouses growing. But we were scrambling for space. We threw some old tables out there. We took buckets, and I'm very much about like high tech. This is what they do in the high tech world, and this is how we make it cheap for the low tech world. But it's the same principles. And here they're growing potatoes in a bucket. That's all they're doing, and that was one of our first harvests of the year. Their homework, they loved it, because I gave them a tulip seed, and I said, this is your homework. Go home and grow it and bring it back in 8 weeks, and we'll see what happens. And I had one kid say, Ms. Bootsma, my cat ate my flower. And I just kind of laughed. I'm like, don't you mean the dog? And he's like, no, seriously, the cat ate my flower. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll talk about that. But the main part of this is the aquaponics. And so students were learning growing plants in soil, and then I was going to teach them how do you grow plants using fish. And they all thought I was nuts. And I said, no, this is how you do it. It's a self-sustaining system where basically The ammonia excreted from fish in the water actually turns into nitrogen. It gets filtered over to the plants that love nitrogen, and when the plants take in the nitrogen, they're actually filtering out the water, making it clean, and returning it back to the fish. And so it's the idea that you can grow your entire dinner in one cycle. If you use tilapia as your fish, that's your protein. And then if you grow your lettuce and your spinach, there's your salad. So off we started. We started building our own systems first because I really wanted them to understand the principles of aquaponics. And so here I needed a place. With aquaponics, you need to be able to control temperature. You don't kill the fish. The plants like the warmth. And I said, well, where am I going to do this? I don't have enough space in my classroom. Well, I found a storage closet that wasn't being used. So I turned a storage closet into a lab. It could only fit about 4 or 5 students at a time, but that was fine because we would kind of rotate into the lab to do different things. And so here is a plastic kind of shelf built from Home Depot. We got a tub on the bottom, just a Rubbermaid tub holding fish. And on the top, we got some more Rubbermaid tubs, some insulation from Home Depot, and we've got some little plant cups with plants growing out of them. And so this here is called an ebb and flow system. There's pumps. It dumps water into the top, and it flushes it right back down. We created another system called an IFT system, which is, these are rain gutters, and it's just a continuous flow of water down the rain gutters. There's a blue barrel over there on the left that actually had koi in it, I think, at this time. And we were growing our broccoli and lettuce, and there's some strawberries in there. And so the students were learning how these systems work by actually creating them themselves. So it's very low budget, but high technology. In year 2 and in year 1, we also took it one step further. We included other different groups on campus. We invited photography to come over and take some pictures for us and put them onto the website. We invited construction to come over and create our planter boxes. And so it really kind of exploded into other areas. We went to the computer science people. They designed a logo for our program. They even created a website that we could showcase our vegetables. That we only sell to staff at the moment because we have such a high demand on campus that any of the vegetables we sell, we sell them to staff, and it goes right back into the program. And we did showcase these things at the community fair. In year 2, though, we wanted to expand the program, and like I said, we had administrative support. I found this little area of grass that we weren't using, and I said, can I build a farm? And they kind of looked at me like, what do you mean? And I said, well, this is what I mean. And so we took just an area of grass, we ripped it out, and we started to create our farm. And so the students learned all about irrigation techniques and timers and how to water their plants. We were able to get another grant, and we put in a greenhouse. And so these are the same kids planting in year 2 in a larger area. We expanded upon the aquaponics system. We actually purchased a system at this point that is supposed to house 70 pounds of fish and grow 120 things of lettuce in about 35 days. And so you can kind of see the raft down at the bottom that will house our lettuce. Here on the right is a fairly cheap homemade aquaponics system you can actually see in the showcase that a student created just out of materials bought at Walmart, less than $10, the same principle. We instituted hydroponics during year 2, which is growing plants in liquid nutrients, no fish. And so here we have our 3 systems we integrated. We have the vertical system over here on the left that they've just put together, and they're ready to go on that. We have this tower here in the middle, and we have this one called the Arrow Garden on the right that you can actually go buy at like Bed Bath & Beyond. And so what it does is it allows the kids to go, hey, it's the same principle, but you can do it multiple different ways. And I don't think our kids were never kind of trained that way. Other experiences, again, low technology. I call this the lazy farming method. It's called wicking. You take 2 buckets from Home Depot, fill up water in the bottom, and eventually the water sucks up into the plant. You can water it once, maybe twice a week, and you grow wonderful produce. And so we also, again, cheap way to grow your plants, but same principles. Within the system, they also learned how light spectrums and wattage and how much light plants needed. And so mushrooms we had up there, and we do DIY labs, which means I tell them the principles behind things, and I said, you're going to show me a lab about soil growing versus hydroponic growing. Here's all the things available to you on the tables. You design the lab. And so it takes them a full day, because these are regular kids, it takes them a full day to design a lab. But what they're learning is they're always in groups. Like I have 10 groups. The labs are always different, but it's all about the same thing. And so again, it's the whole idea of applying the scientific method, but getting the same results. We do have a lot of community partners. We went out into the Mayish Wholesale Florist, and they are doing internships with some of our kids so they can have some kind of a work experience when they do graduate high school. And Starbucks here on the right does grounds for garden. If you go to Starbucks, they'll give you free coffee grounds, and coffee grounds are great for your gardens. What does the future hold for us? We are going to, on the left, put in these garden socks, which is you can grow plants anywhere on concrete, wherever you want, because it holds enough soil as you like. And we are going to start infiltrating something called aeroponics, same principle again, but just a little bit different. And our program has grown. Our neighboring school has their own ag program because ours was very successful. It went down into our middle schools, and they just started this year as an after-school program, but hope to bring it in as a class. And our new high school that's currently being built will be an ag high school. They will have a lot of these ideas here. We're also bringing in next year floriculture and design, which they will grow flowers and actually learn how to design them, so that becomes a fine art. And then we're looking into landscape architecture for year 4. So they'll have the ability to take an ag class for all 4 years. So a very small group of kids, but very productive. And if you have any questions, let me know. But there are live demonstrations over in the Regency Theater. Thank you.
Learn more about the Institute for Teaching and its commitment to strength-based teacher-driven change at www.teacherdrivenchange.org and follow us on Twitter @CTAIFT.